Hi there, I'm Camille.
And I'm Gretchen. Welcome back to Starting Over podcast. We're so happy that y'all are here. Today we're going to talk about something that may kind of land a little differently on you.
Yeah.
You want to say it?
You go ahead.
We're talking about how to make pain,
Your friend.
not your enemy, but something to learn from.
Yeah.
I was talking, Camille, today with a gal that she survived a horrific crash from the sky.
Yeah.
She was a hang glider and broke about everything you can imagine and was never supposed to walk. I mean, everything was shattered. Can you imagine falling
Wasn't
from
it
the
all
sky?
her bones in her body? Did
Yeah. So the motor of the hang glider fell off at some point, and she didn't have a parachute. And she literally, she said, I remember I put my foot out, flexed my ankle, and locked my knee, and that helped. But literally everything was shattered. Organs were just,
Can you imagine?
just a mess. But she said, I learned to not be on morphine, and I learned to embrace the pain because if I could understand the pain, then I can understand the healing.
That's right.
And I was thinking about whether it's a physical pain or an emotional pain, we still have to, because in your practice, you have to have people that come face to face with it.
That's right. They have to deal with it. Yeah. Well, and if you avoid, if you're avoidant of the pain, I always say whatever you resist is going to persist. So for her to get that recipe down, it's like, I'm just going to embrace the pain. And then the second she embraces it, there's actually a relief in that.
Mm-hmm.
And even in emotional stuff, when I say, okay, take this on, sit in it, absorb it, allow it, don't fight it. When that happens, there's a relief. There's a relief. And I think even you went through that with your treatments.
Yeah, I think, when you don't make pain your enemy.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is Camille and I we talk often about not being the victim.
Yes.
So it's really easy to turn into the why me.
Yeah.
Why is this happening to me?
It's unfair.
Or this sucks. This is so bad.
Yeah.
And when you resist something that is a part of you, especially in an illness, or in her case, like a damaged body.
Yeah.
When you resist the healing.
Yeah.
But if you think about it emotionally, if you resist pain that you've been through, or you push it off to the side and you don't want to think about it and you don't want to deal with it,
Avoiding, yeah.
You've seen, oh my gosh, we've all seen time and time again, it resurfaces in other areas because it has to come out.
Well, and they say that, again, withheld pain or unprocessed pain just comes out in uglier ways.
Mm-hmm.
Dis-ease is disease. So that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And, now most all these studies now with especially therapeutic, everything's trauma-based. Everything's trauma-related, So people do what they do because they're in some sort of pain. Not that because they're a narcissist. I mean, there's all these labels. But I've got these teenage kids that are labeled all this stuff, and they're just dealing with their trauma that way.
Right.
So it's interesting how we want to put a label on it and make it something that it's not.
Even I was working with some clients this week, and the subject was on mental health.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how we can take a subject and just kind of sensationalize it in a way that may not be completely true. So in other words, what I was saying to these ladies that I was working with, mental health doesn't necessarily mean anxiety, depression, suicide. It doesn't have to be the bad thing. Mental health is taking care of your mental state.
Yes.
To whatever that means, including your happiness, including your joy, including, the positivity in your life. That is your mental health. You're taking care of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you resist an emotion, or when you resist a memory or a feeling, and you don't process through it, you will still find yourself tripped over it because, like you were saying, it will show up some other way. And as we know from science and studies, it can also manifest itself in a disease.
Yes.
And that's where you don't want to be. That's where you don't want to be.
Well, and like we started, let's not, make pain your friend. Like when people have a knee-jerk reaction and they find themselves screaming or yelling or, again, having a strong emotion, that right there is a gift. If you can go, whoa, what am I reacting to? Because you have to start seeing what am I responding to? And it's always the trauma. It's always something from your past. If you're reacting vehemently to in a strong way for the moment, and it's an overreaction for the moment, well, that's, again, it's an obvious trigger into the past. But you can't process that stuff if it doesn't come up. So if you're reacting, and I deal with clients all day long, they're yelling. They're yelling at their kids because they're mad at their spouse. I mean, that's typical, right? And they hate that they're doing that. But that's what they have to talk about is what are they really mad at?
What are they
Well, the
really
spouse
upset
is
with?
reminding me of my family, my sibling, my parents. There's something in their childhood that they never dealt with.
And with starting over, Camille and I, we've talked about this with relationships. So let's say that you are a divorced person, and you don't really go through and process or deal with situations from your marriage, and then you get into a new relationship, whether you're married or not, and all of a sudden it's like there's a response that happens because of something that someone else did.
Yeah.
That you don't want to have to be held prisoner to that feeling anymore, nor do you want to have to be what Camille and I loosely call the victim. You don't want to be that, because that's not living. And so whatever happened in any relationship, whether it's with you or somebody else, like that needs to stay away.
Yeah.
Because you are not sentenced that this is now how you are. Sorry, this is how you are.
Yeah.
You were kidnapped. Now you are very
stuck in that.
protective, and you're no. What did you do? You changed in a way that you now help people.
Yeah. Well, and look, I think in the beginning of a trauma, like that's a trauma, and I compensated. Like I didn't want to be little. I wanted to be bigger. I gained weight. I mean, I can look at myself and see how I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to play outside. Like there was things that I compensated. I was avoiding doing because didn't want to feel the feeling. So, but that's, and look, I think everyone does that. When you got a burned hand, you got to treat that hand. You got to treat the burn. But I also had an incident where I was on a tractor, and my dad said, I'm never driving that. He says, yes, you are. Get back on that tractor right now. And so, he made me drive that tractor, and I'm glad he did, because he knew that the longer I was off the horse, so to speak, I'm not going to want to get back on that horse and ride.
Right, right.
So that's how life is. If you're like, I'm never doing that again, I'm never dating again, I'm never this thing again. When you say I'm never that, trust me, the universe is listening, and it doesn't hear negative. It's like, yeah, well, you can handle it. I'll show you. Here's more. Learn this. Try this on. So we really don't get to avoid life. It's almost like I got to graduate that lesson for me to go to a different lesson. You see?
And that is really the premise of
starting over,
leaning in, and leaning into the pain. So the pain, the pain isn't necessarily there to punish.
No,
it's there as a gateway. And even at the time that it's so horrific and could be so traumatic and all of that, yes, I certainly understand. Yeah. But again, how do you want to process? How do you want to think about it? Am I a victim and for me this happened?
Yeah.
Or okay, now I know, and here's the beauty of pain is once you've gone through it, now you can do much harder things, right? Yeah. So I always say, oh my gosh, I survived divorce, birthing 5 children, and cancer. Like, oh, this is easy.
Right.
This is easy, right? Yeah. Only because you're like, I know the confidence that I have in myself that I can do a lot.
That's right. Well, and how else do we ever feel achievement? Pain, without pain, there is no gain. And that's so cliche, but it's the truth. Mm-hmm. If you really haven't endured anything, you're not going to know yourself. You're not going to know your abilities. So pain truly can be our friend. Even our enemies can be our friend. Who else is going to be so hyper-focused on you and know you that well other than your enemy, right? I mean, think about that. Isn't that terrible? But it's true. That person's they know you. They get who you are. Right?
Or they think they know you.
Or they're threatened by who, exactly. But in that context, that's a person that you're growing from. You're not going to let them. So that resistance, always in that resistance is where there's going to be growth and gain.
And I think too, it's like if you don't embrace and learn and certainly I'm not saying like you start doing cartwheels because somebody has cheated on you or whatever. All I'm saying is at some point you have to look at the situation and be like, how do I want to live with this?
Yeah.
Am I a victim? Am I stuck in this horrific feeling? Because that's not what life is about. We're not meant to be stuck in a feeling where it's like we've been labeled, condemned, and now shamed or whatever. That now we're forever unhappy.
Yeah.
You think about it. Thank goodness, like things that hurt our feelings when we were children. Maybe somebody didn't want to play with you, and everybody else in the neighborhood was doing something, you weren't invited. Thank goodness we don't really remember those things, right? And the things that we do remember from childhood that are no longer serving us, now's the time to let it go.
Yeah.
Look at the situation and be like, what have I learned?
Yeah. And how am I still responding? Letting that have power over me, right? That's what we have to look at is what am I reacting to? Why am I reacting? What is that about? And that's usually the trauma you've got to let go of. But you got to look at it. You got to process. You got to be with it. You got to be willing to feel it again.
And one thing I love that Camille always says is like, why are you making it personal?
Yeah. What does it mean about you?
Most of the things that happen are not personal. You know, even like my cancer. Oh my gosh, cancer wasn't like, hey, bitch, I'm going to come get you. It wasn't personal.
No.
So I chose not to hate it.
Yeah.
I chose not to talk about it in a way that cancer sucks. And, you know, that was not the mindset that I wanted to have at all because it wasn't personal.
Yeah. See, and you just said that. It really is, what are we still fighting? You know, if we, because again, we're the making meaning machines. You know, it's like, oh, I have cancer. That means I'm this or I'm that. Or I've been cheated on. That means, oh, I'm unlovable. I'm rejected. It doesn't have to mean that. We make that up. That isn't true. That's our opinion. And if we live like our opinions are real, then we're upset. And you know, the interesting thing, the phenomenon of truth, and I've seen this happen so many times, is when a person realizes, oh, my parents got divorced and it wasn't my fault. Oh, like when they've lived that life, like maybe it was their fault that dad left or mom left. When they kind of get to that place where they finally look at it and process it, maybe it really wasn't me.
Maybe it wasn't me.
It's not about me.
How freeing is that?
Right. And the truth, that scripture, the truth sets you free. Because when you hit the truth, there is an aha moment. And I'm telling you, people that live a lie are in pain. It's amazing. And so when I sit with a client, I'm like, well, what lies you live and what lie are you telling yourself? And that person did something to you. They did something, and you said it's to you, right? So you're making it about you. What if that's not even about you? What if they were going to cheat with whoever they were with or whatever? So you're right. When we take it personal and make it mean something about us, now we're stuck.
And really, if you think about the patterns of things that have hurt you from other people, they've done it to other people too.
Oh, sure.
So it isn't about you. You know, and we certainly understand, and we're old. We've lived life. Hey now. Hey. I'm just.
We both had a lot of pain.
We both
That's
have
right.
been through a lot, and I can look back on things and think, you know, that really wasn't about me.
Yeah.
I was either the sounding board or the whipping board or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was that for that pain, but that wasn't about me.
Yes.
And so where you want to make your shift is, don't let it affect your self-esteem. Don't take it as you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not successful, you're not smart, you're not lovable. Don't put all these labels on yourself based upon what somebody else has done. Because remember, when somebody shows a lack of integrity or shows a lack of caring and loving, that's not because you deserve that. I mean, even people that are horrific and awful, you still get to choose how you want to treat them, right? But how somebody treats you is not because you're that. It's because that's just how they're taking out those feelings.
Yeah. Well, and that's how the mind works. It's like, look, in any relationship, if you remind your friend, your partner of someone if they remind you of someone in your past that wounded you, and how's that not going to happen?
Right, right.
That's always going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you're triggered, again, that's the secret sauce. If you're triggered, now you know that's where your work is. So this is where you need to process, because that person's reminding you of someone from your past, that painful trauma, whatever that is, and then you're taking something out on them, the present time person, which is what you want to take out on the wound or the prior, offender.
But they're gone.
They're gone. And so, but people, it's like when I wake them up from that trance, it's like, look, this is not your dad. This is not the predator. This is not the child molester, whatever. This is someone who continues to be here and takes your beating. Right. They got a loaded gun against them because you're in pain.
Right.
And I can't stress enough to parents, do not, fight in front of your kids. Like the trauma you put on your kids is going to come out on the future sons and daughter-in-laws, So that's just, it's just kind of how it's projected.
Which we've talked about on previous podcasts about the inner child and about what happens, or even in a different light, ideas and thoughts and patterns that we continue to have and live by based upon what we learned when we were little.
Yes.
And many a times we don't want to deal with it. And so what you have is then you have a part of your inside, which is really your inner child that never had a voice,
Yeah. Never got validated.
never got validated, never got to work through whatever that pain
Made
was.
something up about themselves. They're not lovable. That's why that abandonment happened. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that carries on in your life.
And you're going to be right about that.
Right,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you believe it.
That's right. And so you'll continue to create that inside of a relationship.
But what if there was a portion of you, what if there's a portion of you that actually was living happy and loved and abundant
Yeah.
and worthy and joyful? What if there's a version of you that's out there somewhere in that quantum field that's how you really are? Why not gravitate to that
Yeah.
instead of saying, well, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
This has always been this way. This is how it is. This is what this person did to me.
And believing it.
And believing it and still reacting to it.
Yeah. Try this thought on. Okay, this might be kind of a little out there, but try this thought on. If you believe it, it's a lie.
I like that.
Yeah, if you believe it, it's a lie. Because again,
For the negative. I mean, you can believe you're worthy, but that doesn't mean it's a lie.
well, but the point is, whatever your beliefs are, the belief is limiting. Mm-hmm. So and it could be limiting in the positive or negative, I guess.
Right.
But if you are believing something, that does become a lie because that's what's right, and the other stuff is wrong. So, you've almost got to be open-minded, like a child. I mean, they say you want to enter the world and kind of continue to be curious. But if you think you know, that's when you don't know. And isn't Socrates the one that said, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's in the context of where I think that comes from, is if you believe it, it becomes a lie because now you're stuck with that. Oh, this is how it is.
Right.
Or
right.
or not. I mean, things change.
Right.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, that's so important what you just said, because what we have believed in the past cannot always hold true.
Right.
Because we change, we evolve, and I'm not saying that like your core beliefs and obeying the law and being honest, loving your I'm not saying that is what's changing, but what I'm saying is maybe you have a different perspective of things now. Maybe you've leveled up. Maybe you're not at a place that you hate this type of person, or you hate that type of job or whatever. Maybe you leveled up.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stay in that belief. And sometimes it's hard when you're around family members or people in your relationships that still believe that way, but you don't.
Yeah.
But guess what? You still have the power, just like we talked with starting over. You have the power to still believe what you believe. Yeah. You don't have to be a part of the party. Yeah. You don't have to just agree just because you want to keep peace.
Yeah. Belong. That's how you belong. And it's tribal. We all do the same thing kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. But there's risk in enlightenment. It's kind of, they say it's lonely at the top kind of thing, because when you start letting go of these things, you probably are going to be less in the tribe,
But that's the beauty, is you may level up past the tribe.
Yeah. Outgrow things.
And what's the better option, to stay below and to be miserable, or to stay enlightened and help others? And so really what happens is when you level up and you keep leveling up, you find more people that are of that as well.
Yes.
And again, we talk about the sacred circle around you. You get to choose, what do I want to allow in? What makes sense for my happiness? And if you're the type of person that's finding happiness in misery, you're really not happy. You're comfortable, but you're not happy.
It's a habit. It's a bad habit.
All right, everybody, we appreciate you being here. Again, if you'd like to work with Camille and I one-on-one, we do that. We offer coaching. We offer corporate and team trainings.
Yep.
So you can get a hold of us at
StartingOverCommunications.com.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.